Hello. So you recently found out that you are creative, and I am sure that there are a lot of questions going through your head, and that's perfectly normal. I will talk about some major issues that you would experience in such situation. Firstly, just imagine going through life without awareness of your unique talents, your strengths, and even your weaknesses. Then, as a result of maybe some unforeseen circumstances, you start to gain a somewhat clear picture of your unique abilities. At this stage, the revelation is intense to whomsoever, be it a 25-year-old, 35, 45, or 60-year-old. It doesn't matter in terms of age. Everyone's timeline is different, including their story. So I'm sure that's where you are right now, or maybe close to that timeline in terms of time you discovered your creativity and your talents. Some people have this realization after reaching rock bottom, or maybe going through a tragic life incident, or major changes in their life. For me, I had this experience around the year 2021 during the COVID era. So what I would like to say is one of the first things that occurs is that you experience grief. And some of you might say, why grief? Well, technically, before you came to this realization of your creativity, you were somewhat living your life without the vital information about yourself. Now, just imagine a lion living like a sheep. And that's just like a metaphor. I'm just trying to paint a picture of the different aspects of how you lived your life, or how I live my life, if I use myself as an example. So a quote by Steve Jobs goes like this: your time is limited on this earth. Don't waste it living someone else's life. So if we relate this quote to the metaphor of the lion and the sheep, when a lion realizes that he is a lion and not a sheep, he doesn't immediately start to do lion stuff or start to behave like a lion. No. There are moments of surprise. There are moments of confusion. There are moments of shock. And most importantly, grief, which is something that I would like to discuss about in this video. Now, I know this might come as a surprise to some people. You would think that once you find out that you're creative, you would jumpstart your creative journey. You would start creating stuff, but it doesn't usually work that way. Transitioning from a consumer mindset to a creator mindset isn't a walk in the park. Your ideologies would likely be shifted. Your personality would likely be affected. For example, I used to be a people pleaser in the past, but when I wore the cap of a creator, all that changed. So same thing for you. You would experience changes in your physical state. You would experience changes in your emotional state. Basically in almost every area of your life when you step into your creator state. It's scary and beautiful at the same time. It's bitter and sweet at the same time. And I would say it's the start of a new beginning. So let's talk about grief. Because grief is the response to loss. And in this particular situation, loss of a previous life, technically. There are 5 stages of grief according to Kubler-Ross, and these are denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. The first stage, which is the denial stage, this is the stage where you start to question your life decisions. You start to question your past. You even question the many times that you clearly had opportunities to express your creativity, but you ignored it. You could even find yourself going through old photos of you doing creative endeavors like singing, dancing, playing the guitar, or painting, whichever creative endeavors that you used to do while you were growing up. You would find yourself reminiscing on these memories, and you would start to ask yourself a lot of questions like, what went wrong? Why didn't I follow my dreams? How come I chose not to do what I was effortlessly good at? So these are valid questions that we ask ourselves at this stage of our life. And these are valid questions that you're probably asking yourself right now. However, the idea is to try not to blame others. Take full responsibility of your actions, of your choices, and be determined to chart a new course going forward. So, let's talk about the next stage in grief, which is anger. Here you start to get angry at yourself, and sometimes you start to get angry at other people. They could be family, friends, or even colleagues. Usually, we have the tendency to try to direct our anger towards external parties because it's a way to kind of feel validated. It's kind of like a typical human response in such a scenario. So you could find yourself ruminating on stuff like, oh, it's my parents' fault. They always used to laugh at my essays. They always used to laugh when I danced across the room. And they are the reasons why I grew up and never developed my talents. Again, the best advice here, which I would like to share with you, is that you should avoid blaming external parties and avoid self-harm. Yes, you could find yourself in that situation. So avoid self-harm, especially destructive behaviors. So the third stage of grief is bargaining. Now, this is the tricky part of grief. Here you start to try to consciously avoid the causes of grief. Let's imagine this. Imagine working for years in a job that you are not happy with. You spend most of your years in a job that doesn't fulfill your aspirations. So when on this life path, even if you were to unconsciously or consciously discover your true passion or gift, it requires you to fully commit to change in order to alter the course of your life. So basically, people in this stage of grief consciously avoid paying attention to their creativity, their uniqueness, their strengths, and they keep on pushing on the current path that they are on, hoping and hoping and hoping that things would likely get better or maybe some miracle would happen. Honestly, this part of grief is really tricky, and a lot of people get stuck in this part for a really long time, sometimes forever. Dwelling in this stage could lead you to an unhappy and miserable life. And I think the reason why anyone would get stuck in the bargaining stage is because they are avoiding taking full responsibility for their past actions and decisions. Another reason could be that they are unconsciously avoiding the next phase of grief, which is the D phase. Personally, I call it the D phase. At this stage, you start to really feel sad about your life decisions, your past actions, and the missed opportunities. I mean, it's perfectly understandable considering the difference in the quality of life if things had taken a different turn. Basically, a life based on intentional decisions would likely be much more fulfilling than a life based on unintentional decisions. So, I would like to point out that people react differently during this stage. Some people get really quiet. Some people stop doing things that make them happy, like their hobbies. Some people stop paying attention to themselves, physically, mentally, emotionally. Again, it's different for everyone. And I think it's important for me to point that out. I would do a video on the D phase as it pertains to creative individuals, because it's something I think I can share a bit of my story with, and a lot of people would learn from it. Another important thing to take note of is the time frame of each stage of grief. Now, I honestly cannot put a time frame on how long it would take for an individual to overcome each stage of grief. It's different for everyone. Your story is different from your friend, your colleague, or your family member. So it's an individual journey. It's distinctive to every individual. Now, the last stage of grief is the acceptance stage. At this stage, you make the decision to take full responsibility of your past decisions, and you decide to push forward with an intentional mindset. So at this stage, there's a lot of self-talk, positive self-talk. You find yourself saying things like, it's going to be fine. I can do this. I have no control over the past. A lot of all these positive affirmations. So for me, I remember when I stumbled on the profiles of some prominent YouTube creators that I admired. And I felt a bit down when I found out that they were about 10 years younger than me. But because I had fully accepted responsibility of my past decisions, I was able to pull myself through and take concrete steps towards achieving my aspirations and goals, irrespective of any external situation. So at this stage, there's some form of confidence that's associated with some form of clarity also. And I think this confidence and clarity comes from the newly found relationship you have with yourself. So in conclusion, when you go through the various stages of grief and you have developed a sense of clarity and confidence, the ultimate question is, what next? And two things come next, and they are: one, uncertainty, and two, the unknown. And I know these two things might come as a shock, but there is a quote by one of my favorite authors that can help you put these two items into perspective. It's a quote by Mary Jane Oliver, and it says, "Uncertainty and the unknown are the raw materials for the artist." So basically, you are an artist. You are a creative person. You are a creator. You should start to see yourself like that once you get into the creator mindset. Once you adopt the creator mindset, you should start to see yourself as an artist, as a creator, as a creative person. You should embrace the void. You should be intimate with the emptiness ahead, just like Mary said in her quote. So you should create a path. You should create your path going forward. And that's what my YouTube channel is about. I sincerely hope to guide you on your creative journey. I hope to help you grow and shine light on the path ahead. So feel free to comment, give a thumbs up, and subscribe, and let's navigate this creative journey together. See you in the next video.